But do you think right now in Malaysia that there is beginning to be that understanding of frameworks that China is putting forward, like the Belt and Road Initiative, like BRICS, Shanghai Cooperation Organization? Is there sort of the idea of the potential use of those types of frameworks for Malaysia?
Yeah, I think so. I think the Malaysian government has expressed interest in joining BRICS. It makes sense, I mean, if you have 50% plus of the world economy within that, the growing GDPs in these countries means it's a big market for us as well. We want to sell our oil palm, or we want to sell various stuff there. So it does make sense. Economically, the weight of China and the BRICS countries, something that draws Malaysia. We've got to watch China and see how it overcomes what I call the midlife crisis of capitalism, because they've used capitalism to kind of pole vault from a pre-industrial era, from a poor country into a moderately wealthy country now. But they're facing all the problems that capitalist economies face. Basically, a problem of underconsumption. Can't create enough jobs because there's not enough capacity in their country to absorb. So I think, to me, you cannot solve that problem without going beyond, in some ways, beyond capitalism.
You have to say that I don't agree that they have risen to where they are because of capitalism. I do see that they have used market forces, you're correct. But I think that their rise is more to do with their socialist system. Like, even though, yes, of course, it's socialism with Chinese characteristics, it still utilizes market forces, and there are private companies, capital.
Okay, the way I see this is the Soviet Union, to industrialize, didn't do anything what China was doing. Basically, they squeezed the surplus from the peasants for decades, and that didn't make them very popular with the people, because they were trying to put a lot of the surplus into building heavy industry, the logistics, the infrastructure, the weapons to stand up against the West. And they had to, but it basically was tough on the people. And it's difficult to build support for your regime when you are, in terms of surplus extraction, you're as bad as a Tsar, And China did that initially up to the time of the 70s. And then they opened up, and they basically used Western technology, Western capital, and Western markets to grow, and they used it. I mean, I'm not saying it's a wrong thing, but they used it. And that's the difference. And you can say, it's smart of them to do that and develop the economy using Western capital, where compared to what the Soviet Union did, which was basically surplus extraction from their own domestic population. But you can see the difference. But the problem with doing what China did is now you got a huge capitalist class in China. Thankfully, they're not in control of the Chinese government, but they're there. They're a big police class, and there's a lot of materialism in China as well. It's something they have to control. And now the problem they're facing is they can't generate enough jobs because there's just not enough growth in demand. And globally, everyone is growing sluggishly, and there's recession, and growth in our productive capacity means that, now one person can produce what three persons could produce 20 years ago. The only way out really is to reduce the number of hours of work. This is what, Keynes talked about 100 years ago. There'll be something called technological unemployment. Because of advance in technology, you don't need as many people. So the only way out would be to reduce the work week down to maybe even half, but increase the hourly rate of work so that people have enough to eat. And so when you have enough, all the jobs being shared, then everyone has got enough work. But to do that means you're going to cut into the profits of the companies, And that means in China, if you do that, you can do it in China, but that means you got to put up tariffs, because you cannot allow cheaper products from elsewhere to come in and take over your market. If you make your companies more expensive, then cheaper producers from elsewhere, even from India, may come in, or Vietnam, or even from Malaysia may come in. So they have got to look at the whole issue. And so for them to solve this crisis that they are facing means they got to depart from playbook of capitalism. And then they got to talk about tariffs. They got to talk about fair trade. They got to talk about creating jobs becoming more important than efficiency in production. Very interesting.